An elevator car on a Chicago high-rise started drifting down between floors after a maintenance mistake. No one inside had a control that could stop it. The motor was not the hero, the computer was not the hero, and the steel ropes, the part most people trust, were not the last line of defense either. What stops that car was a hidden mechanical chain built for the exact moment everything else goes wrong. So, if an elevator can hold something as heavy as a room full of people, what actually keeps it from dropping? And why is the safest part the one you never see? To answer that, we need to start with the basic problem engineers had to solve. A traction elevator is not just a little box moving up and down. It is a heavy machine lifting a very heavy load inside a narrow shaft, all day, every day. In simple terms, you are stepping into a moving room made of steel, with a frame, doors, floor panels, cables, rollers, and a lot of hidden hardware packed around it. Once you add passengers, that load gets big, fast. Now, the thing that surprises most people is this. The motor does not brute force the whole weight by itself. That would waste a huge amount of energy and put a lot more stress on every part. So engineers solved the problem by thinking backwards. They added a counterweight. Think of the counterweight as the other half of a balanced tug-of-war. On one side is the elevator car. On the other is a heavy block moving the other way. Both are linked by steel hoist ropes that pass over a grooved wheel at the top, called a sheave. This is the hidden logic. The counterweight balances much of the car's weight, so the motor only deals with the difference between the two sides, not the full load. But there is a problem. Because the system depends on rope tension and traction, people naturally assume the ropes are the one thing keeping the car alive. If something goes wrong, the fear is simple. Rope slips, rope breaks, car falls. That fear feels right, but it misses how the machine is really built. A modern traction elevator does not rely on one line of defense. It uses layers. The ropes carry the load during normal travel. The machine brake holds the drive system when the car stops. And there is a separate emergency system that does not need software, a person, or even power. That brings us to the part almost nobody thinks about when they step inside and press a button. The system that watches speed itself. If you like seeing the hidden logic inside machines you use every day, hit subscribe, because this is where elevator safety becomes pure mechanical design. At the top of the shaft is a small wheel most riders will never know exists. It is called the overspeed governor. That name sounds technical, but the job is simple. It watches how fast the elevator car is moving. Not with software, with motion. A dedicated rope runs from this governor wheel down to the elevator car and back through the shaft. So every time the car moves, the governor moves too. If the car goes up, the governor turns. If the car goes down, the governor turns. It is always mechanically linked to the car, which means it is always checking speed in real time. This is where it gets clever. Inside the governor are weighted parts, often called flyweights, held in place by springs. At normal speed, those weights stay tucked in, but as the wheel spins faster, the weights want to swing outward. It works through a simple physical principle. The faster the spin, the harder those weights pull away from the center. Think of it like swinging a bucket in a circle. The faster it moves, the harder everything inside pushes outward. Engineers set that governor so the weights stay calm during normal travel, but if the elevator moves too fast, those weights cross a set point. When that happens, they trip a lever. That lever locks the governor, and the moment the governor locks, the governor rope goes tight. That tight rope is not just reporting a problem, it becomes the trigger. It pulls directly on the safety gear attached to the elevator car. So now we are not dealing with a warning light or an electronic message. We are dealing with a physical action causing another physical action. One part moves, then the next part moves, then the next. Cause and effect. Fast. This matters for one big reason. If the building loses power, the governor still works. If the control system fails, the governor still works. If the main drive has a fault, the governor still works. The whole point is independence. It is a mechanical watchdog built to act when the normal system cannot. And that is why the Chicago incident matters. When that car began drifting, the governor did not need someone in a control room. It did not wait for permission. It felt the motion, compared it to its set limit, and when the speed crossed the line, it acted. Now we have the real question. Once the governor trips, How do you stop a moving room made of steel inside a shaft without letting it crash? The answer is one of the smartest parts of the whole machine. This is the part most people have never heard of. Once the overspeed governor locks and pulls on the safety linkage, the elevator car activates what is called the safety gear. In many traction elevators, that means wedges or gripping parts mounted on the car frame near the guide rails. Those rails are the tall steel tracks that keep the car lined up as it moves through the shaft. Think of the guide rails like train tracks, except straight up and down. The elevator car rides along them the whole time. Under normal travel, the safety gear does nothing. It just waits. But the moment the governor rope pulls hard enough, that changes. The clever part is how the wedge uses the car's own motion against it. The wedge is shaped so that when it is pulled into the rail, it jams tighter. In simple terms, the more the car tries to keep moving, the harder the wedge bites. The motion creates the grip. The grip creates friction. And that friction turns speed into heat, noise, and a hard stop. This is why the system does not need a motor, a pump, or a computer to save the car in that moment. The elevator is carrying all the energy already. The safety gear just redirects it. If you have ever pushed a doorstop under a door, you already know the basic idea. A small, angled piece can lock a much bigger object if the force keeps pushing into it. The elevator wedge works on that same kind of logic, just with far more force and much tougher steel. And this is important. The goal is not to make the car hit something at the bottom. The goal is to stop it on the rails before it ever gets there. That is why the guide rails matter so much. They are not just there to keep the ride smooth. In an emergency, they become the surface the safety gear grabs to hold the whole car in place. So when people say an elevator can just drop like a rock, this is the part they are missing. The car is trapped inside a system that has mechanical ways to grab it. Now let's add one more layer. Even before the safety wedge needs to act, the main machine brake is built in a fail-safe way. That means the safe state is the default state. When the elevator is parked, springs press the brake shut. To let the elevator move, electricity powers an electromagnet, and that magnet pulls the brake open. So if power is lost, the opposite of what most people fear happens. The brake does not let go, it grabs. No power means no magnetic pull. Then the springs win. The brake closes on the drive machine and the car stays put. That is why a blackout does not turn a normal elevator into a falling box. So now we can see the full chain. The counterweight reduces the work. The ropes move the car. The machine brake holds by default. The overspeed governor watches motion mechanically. And if speed goes too far, the safety wedges clamp onto the rails and stop the car. That is not one safety feature. That is a stack of safety features, each built to step in when the one before it cannot. So what keeps a 10-ton elevator from falling is not one magic part. It is a chain of simple ideas working together. Balance the load, watch the speed, make the brake close by default, and if all else fails, let the car grip the rails and stop itself. That is the hidden logic. If you want to see more of how the world works, hit subscribe and share this with someone who still thinks elevators hang by rope alone.